All right, friends, welcome back to another episode of Passion, Purpose, Profit. I'm so excited today. I have one of my dear friends, somebody who I met through a wonderful networking group called the Group SD, and have been in her circle now doing some workshops and been over to her space a few times. And those of you that are listening to this know that, it's really important for me to educate people and to find stories of folks that have been able to find their passion, their purpose, but also turn it into a business, because we need to charge, we need to get paid, and we need to figure out a way to protect ourselves and care for ourselves and find a balance of all of those things. And I think, Carol, you're such an amazing example of that. So Carol Yeh-Gardner, I'm so excited to have you on. Thanks for taking some time just to chat with me for a bit.
Yeah, I love it.
Amazing.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So I always start off every interview. I think all entrepreneurs have a story of struggle. I think a lot of us choose to go into business for ourselves based on some kind of problem or some kind of issue that we sort of faced and identified in our own lives. And then we really want to package that or take some of the things that we've learned and give it to other people. So I'd love to know kind of what was the big impetus, the big struggle, maybe the big challenge that you overcame that led you to the business that you have now.
Yeah, I at the time, well, I have a master's in social work. I had planned, to use my master's in social work, open up a private practice someday, be my own boss, make my own hours, that kind of thing. I got pregnant with my first child and was freaked out about the pain, ended up watching a TV show that showed me a woman in the hospital birthing with Pitocin and totally natural. And she said her birth was enjoyable. And I was like, what? That led me to become a hypnobirthing instructor. And I was teaching hypnobirthing. I had a hypnotherapy practice, loved hypnotherapy way more than talk therapy. And I had a thriving practice. My husband at the time was a first grade teacher. And we were doing well. We had, full-time jobs. Like my two jobs were actually out earning his full-time job as a teacher. But we live in Southern California and we had like 5-figure debt, credit card debt. I was constantly like rolling the dice of like, which one am I paying the late fee this month? Like, I don't know how we're going to do this.
If you're an entrepreneur and you haven't had credit card debt, you're not doing it right.
I know, right? And, I knew with my hypnotherapy practice that, when you don't have clients, if your client's sick or you have an issue with your kid or whatever, you're not getting paid. And so I was looking for something. I just didn't know what it was. And my Young Living business kind of fell into my lap. So I was not planning on getting involved in a network marketing company. I'd had really not great experiences with network marketing, but I had been using store-bought oils thinking like Young Living is a scam. They just charge a lot so that they can pay their distributors money. I had been using store-bought oils for years, making my own recipe of a blend called Thieves Oil, which is really good for your immunity. But it wasn't really working. So 2013, my kids were 7 and 9. My husband, like I said, was teaching first grade. And we were getting prepared for like the cycle of sick, like every fall, winter.
All the germs.
All the germs.
It was
just getting passed around, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'll give this, Young Living thing a try and see what happens. And ended up buying a whole like kit and a diffuser when I really, really only wanted to buy like the oil. But I was like, I'll just do my friend a favor. I'll buy this stupid kit. Never use the oils probably. And ended up using all of the oils and had lots of success. And my husband would diffuse the Thieves Oil in his classroom before the kids came in and after the kids left. Not during, because he didn't want to get any grief from any of the parents of like, what are you doing? What is that? And he had the lowest absentee rate of the entire school.
Whoa.
And so I started sharing about our successes, and my hypnobirthing moms already trusted me. They had a relationship with me. And so all of them were like, how do I get it? I want it. And I mean, I didn't even have to sell them anything. Like they were just like constantly texting me, messaging me like, I want it. And I was like, I guess I'm doing this as a business. Like, I don't know. And so that I reluctantly was like, okay, well, I'll just do this like as a hobby, like a little side thing. And maybe I'll earn, a couple extra $100 that'll help us like whittle away at this credit card debt. And things just started rolling and ramping up. Like my hypnobirthing moms started using their oils and the products, loved them, started sharing, and it just kind of ramped up. And once I saw that the momentum was really growing, I actually was able to earn a trip. I started in October. By December, I earned a trip, top 75 in the company, to go to Hawaii, to the Royal Hawaiian Sandalwood Farm, and like see the whole process. So I earned that trip and got to see the farm, got to see like the whole process. And I was just blown away by the level of care that they go to. And I was like, this is why the oils are so expensive, because like they're sustainable. They're doing regenerative farming. This is, 12 years ago. They've been doing that for 30 something years. And when I left the farm, I knew like this company not only has a heart, but they have a conscience. They want to make sure that, they're taking care of the earth and the environment and the community. Like they're helping the Royal Hawaiian Sandalwood Farm, that community, get rid of like the non-indigenous plants. And like, they're really getting like the local community thriving there. And I just was like, this is a company like I could stand behind and feel good about. I still had to get over my whole like factor of being involved in a network marketing company, because I was like, oh, I don't want to like, I have been involved in some just because I wanted the product and to get like the discount, you had to be a distributor or whatever. Every single time my upline person would, contact me like a couple times a year, like, Carol, let's sit down. Let's talk about like your 50 people you're going to contact, and like, you're going to say this and enroll them and, get in on the ground floor. And I was like, ugh, like, no, you will never catch me doing that. And what I loved about the team that I ended up being on was like, they were so anti that, which is also like why I love our networking group so much, is because they're so anti the standard way of doing business. Our team educates first, and we're just there. We're not chasing sales. We're not being hardcore salespeople. We're not cornering people at the end of a workshop and being like, when are you going to order? Let's schedule your party or workshop. Like I'm never going to do that. And my business just grew. And so I worked my hypnobirthing business and my hypnotherapy business and squeezed in my Young Living business in between, ended up sacrificing time and fun and whatever, because I saw the momentum. And in 27 months, I hit the top rank of the company. And that has been just absolutely life-changing for our family.
Number one in the entire country.
Well, top rank, not number one, but like there's maybe like 30 people or 50 people.
Out of how many?
Millions of distributors, millions of people that are doing the bills.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
That's so wild. And I love that it came out of your own struggle, right? Because it was like one thing led to another, led to another, led to another. Like you said, not only did you not seek it out, but I think it sounds like you had a lot of resistance.
I was really, yeah. So,
but that is, the universe was kind of providing you the tools that you needed at the moment that you needed, and you had the guts to just say yes and listen to that, right? Which I think is a challenge for many of us, like especially like those that could call, like I was caught in a corporate job where, you talked about the debt, and then if people don't show up to your thing, you don't get paid. And that's a really difficult thing. Whereas like, if you sell your soul to a company or to a job, at least every 2 weeks you're getting that paycheck, right? And you got the benefits behind you too. And it's a massive leap of faith, right? To start taking on these challenges. And, you said the sacrifice of time and energy and money, because you saw the inertia, you saw the momentum, right, was in place. And, I think that's really difficult. What would you say was like are you able to kind of pinpoint a moment in time or maybe a lesson or something that you kind of like had that like aha moment that this was starting to shift for you as like something that, you said you thought maybe it was going to be a couple $100 to where you really grew it into something quite substantial? Was there like like a spark or a moment or a mentor or something that happened for you that really kind of lit that up or set that off?
For sure. Yeah. It took me quite a while to get over my dislike of being a part of a network marketing company. And the more and more that I learned about, like, it actually is a great business model when you really think about it. Like, they took out the middle people. So instead of having to pay for huge ads and marketing, and instead of having to pay for distributing and shelf space and like Target or, the health food stores or whatever, they totally took that away, and they made us their sales force. And everybody starts at the same level. There's no gender pay gap. Like, more women in network marketing make 100 grand than any other business.
Wow.
Yeah, but like someone with
So it's like the cream rises to the top. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It just
exactly.
matters that you do a good job and you work hard at it.
Exactly.
I love
Yeah.
that.
So the more I learned about that, and the more that I saw that if I help my team do well, they earn money and they do better, but that also trickles up to me. And so it's definitely different than, when I was a social worker, or even when I was teaching hypnobirthing. Like, I wanted my market. Like, I was like, this is how I'm going to get my people. Or, even in my social work job, like, we didn't share all our successes with everybody else because we're all vying for the same promotion or the same bonus or same, raise or whatever. And with this, like, the more that we share, whether someone takes my content and uses it, like, I want them to take my content and use it, even if they're not on my team, because if they do well, that just helps the whole company do well. And so that was like a completely different, way of doing business that I had never been familiar with. And most of our team is women. There are some men, but this is like the most drama-free group of women. Like, most women, it can get a little dicey, right? And like drama and hormones and all of that. But when
I'm going to let you take that. I'm going to stay out of that completely. I'm just going to nod on the other side of this and go, sure.
But like,
Carol,
when we're dealing with women's, it can sometimes get a little catty and like competitive, especially when you're competitive and you're competing against each other and territorial about things.
Sure.
And the beauty of
people are often shocked too, like in the health and wellness world, like people think like because I run retreats or like I've been a yoga teacher, like you're like absolved of that. And in some ways, because the pay isn't always necessarily as good, it actually can be even more. And there's like a whole bypassing element that happens too. So I love that you said that, because I think, you and I are both huge proponents of community. And also I resonate with the fact that you're a give before ask kind of person, right? And I think when I have messed up, or at least just learned stuff on this journey, it's been that I kind of think about what I can monetize first and then try to put my passion or love into it second. Or like even this podcast that we're on right now, right? Like I have no, like, it would be great if it monetizes or whatever, but it's like my goal is really just to get good information from people and hear stories and get inspired, and then put that out into the world so other people can hear it and other people get inspired. Like I have no like skin in the game to make anything necessarily with it. I just like the idea of doing it. And so I think in the same way, like you were able to really find something like, again, that came out of a struggle, that came out of some strife. And then when you really apply the mechanism of energy to it, that it started to grow, and then you just walked into it, right? You really recognize that and we're able to go with it, right? But it's like the love and the passion. That's why it's like passion, purpose, then profit is the name of the podcast. Because it's like, how do you find those two things first? And just let the debt sit there, or let the like the fear of it stew a little bit, because we all like want to see it like monetized, but it's like it takes time, it takes energy. One thing I wanted to kind of pivot into too, because this has been coming up in the last 2 episodes, and I think it's a really important thing, is I think a lot of times in the world of woo-woo and manifestation and health and wellness, preneurs. It's like, oh, I can just sit in the feeling of the emotion of, being rich or having profit, and it'll just like, I'll open my eyes and it'll just be there. I think energetics, absolutely. Like, you need to be ready to receive, willing to receive. You have to believe you have to build the belief system that you're worthy of it. Yes, I think that's 100% too. And I have a mentor that has this phrase, say your prayers, but then move your feet. Right. So I'd love to hear kind of like what your take on is. Like, where's the balance of doing the inner work, right? Really getting energetically ready to receive, but then like, you got to take some action. You got to do the thing. You got to do the thing also that's uncomfortable too. So I'd love to kind of get your perspective on that.
For sure. Yeah. We rise to the level of our competence and our comfort. And we're only going to break.
Say that one more time. Say that one more time. That was powerful.
We only rise to our level of comfort. And so if we're wanting to level up, we have to do the thing that's uncomfortable. And so, for your listeners, like, think about like, what is it that the most uncomfortable thing, the top 3, and figure out one of them. What are you going to do? What little step can you make towards making that thing that is like one of the top 3 most uncomfortable things, something that you're going to focus on? So I am an introvert. I can extrovert really well. Most people do not know that I'm an introvert, but I am an introvert. Like, I would much rather stay at home under a blanket, watching my shows with my 2 dogs on either side of me, my husband on the other side of the couch, right? Like, I don't really like peopling, but, but I know that in order to build my business, I need to people and I need to chit chat, and I need to build those relationships authentically and not just stay on the surface. And I need to show my team that I'm willing to go outside of my comfort zone, because if I'm not willing to do it, why would they? Right. So I have to constantly think, what am I willing to do out of my comfort zone so that I can be that role model? Because my team only also does, whatever the 80-20 rule, they do 20% of what I do, right? So I'm constantly thinking about like, what can I push myself to do? Going to that networking group was a huge thing. Like, networking, like sitting there and, I've been to so many, like, here's my card. Yeah. Okay. All right. Great. Yeah. Here's my card, and when I got invited, I was like, oh, really? But I knew, like, it was post-COVID, like, things went downhill a little bit in everyone's business for the most part. And I knew I need to do something different. Let's go to this networking group. And it was one of the best decisions of my life. I've made friends like you and people I would have never met. And the community is so amazing. And it was all because I pushed myself every Friday. Do I want to wake up early? I am not an early riser, but I do, because I love this group. It like lights up everything in me. And then I get to go and have my weekend of like whatever. But I just want to encourage anyone who's listening, figure out what those things are, because the more that you can push yourself out of that comfort zone, the higher you will rise. And anyone who's watching will be inspired. And if you do have a team or a group of people that you work with, like, they will be inspired by what you do, even if they don't say that they are. So that's one huge thing I think is so important.
I love that. I think there's always greatness on the other side of uncomfortability. And I think cognitively we can all embrace that. I think the struggle for many entrepreneurs is the clarity in terms of finding, I think, even just the first piece, especially if you've been trapped in a job for a while, right? Like, the passion part, that flame starts to wane. So you might even be listening to this, be like, yeah, well, it's uncomfortable for me to go to my job every day, but I do it. You know what I mean? But I would love to hear your perspective, because it's this balance of stepping into the unknown, stepping into the uncomfort, but you also need to have a clarity in terms of your vision. And I think for me and like a lot of the folks I talk to, it comes back to really knowing themselves first, like really
Mm.
honing intuition and being more intuitive and heart centered in their decision making rather than so up in their head. So I'm curious if like A, you agree, and then B, if you have like a tool or some kind of system that you use so that you're operating from that place of more heart-centered, authentic, rather than the thinking, sort of doing kind of,
Yeah.
mechanism.
I do totally agree with what you're saying. And I grew up in a very, thinking household. Emotions were not a thing. My parents came from China, so like there was no emotion other than like anger and disappointment. So,
Oh, wow, that sounds familiar.
yeah, and
Not the Chinese part, but everything else.
yeah. So I just grew up with constantly like thinking like I'm not enough, I'm never going to be enough, like what is the next thing, always striving, thinking about the next thing. And like you said, when we're stuck in that, it does not do us any benefits, like especially if you want to become an entrepreneur in this kind of more, you know energetic, feel good kind of space. Like you have to tune into your intuition. And so I had to learn how to not listen to all the doubts and the what ifs and the buts and the worst case scenario things in my head, and really focus on like, what do I desire? My desire all of my life has always been like, I want to help people. That's why I went to social work. I want to help people become the best versions of themselves. So how can I do that? With when Young Living fell into my lap, I didn't know. That was not what I was looking for at all. Hypnobirthing and hypnotherapy, like those weren't things I was looking for at all in terms of the business. But they fell into my lap. Someone told me when I was ready to go back to work after having my kids, like I was talking to a friend and I was like, I have no brain cells to be an effective therapist. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, it's time for me to go back to work, but I can't do therapy. And that's when a friend of mine said, well, you have two great hypnobirths. Like, why don't you just teach that? And it was like a light bulb went up. Like, I
Mm,
wouldn't have thought about that, but somebody else outside of me was able to give me that nugget of, um, encouragement, that little fire under me. And I love it so much. I taught for 7.5 years, took a break to build my Young Living business, and I'm stepping back into that realm. But, um, you know, talking with other people, finding someone that could be a mentor, or just finding a community of people that are striving for the same thing you are. Maybe they aren't in the same field as you, but they're also maybe stuck in a 9 to 5, want to find something else. Have those conversations, because when you're so stuck in what you do, it's often not in our subconscious brain or even conscious mind what the next steps are. And sometimes it takes somebody outside of you to
mm,
see and give you that clarity of like, why don't you do this? What do you think about that? And so if you are struggling about like, I don't know what direction to go to, or I don't know what to do, like start talking to people. Talk to people that do things that maybe you think you might be interested in them. Take them
mm,
out for a coffee or tea or lunch or whatever, and interview them and ask them like, how'd they get there? What did they do? What do they love about their job? And you might find that like the thing you thought you wanted to do is not all that you thought it's gonna be, and that maybe something else might be the direction that you need to take.
mm,
But just having that openness and being more intuitive, sitting quietly, is how I tune into my intuition. And I just listen, or I get that like gut feeling of like,
mm.
yes, this is the path. Like when I saw the momentum in my Young Living business, my husband was like, I don't think this is real. And I was like, I don't know. Like, it could be real. Like, this has been happening for this many months. And things keep like increasing. Like, if this keeps going, this is where we could end up going. And he was like, but I had doubts, but I also just kept focusing on like, but if it works, like I could get
Yeah.
there. Like if I keep doing this and I keep growing and I keep investing in
Mm.
my team and doing the hard work and sacrificing, like let's just see what happens.
Oh, I love
And
it.
yeah, and so I I totally agree with you. Like that thinking mind can get the best of us. And with my hypnotherapy practice, like that's the conscious mind, but also our survival mechanism that just
Yeah,
jumps in and tells you like, no, don't do that. And so you have to kind of rewire your brain
I
to
love
think
that.
about, how to think about things differently, to focus on things differently, to manifest things differently than the way that you have. Because if you have goals, then obviously things have to change and shift, and you have to do things a little bit differently to get and reach those. Because if you haven't reached them yet, something needs to get shaken up in order for you to get to that next thing that you haven't gotten to.
Oh, that's so good. I think it's such a powerful formula that you just laid out where it's like you have to romanticize and get obsessive about the vision of what it could be, of like what you could become if everything goes the best it could possibly go. The
Right.
default mechanism of the brain and the nervous system, so much of the work that I do with people is that it just defaults to worst case scenario. It's beautiful. It's trying to protect you. It's trying to
Yes.
keep you alive. And also from a standpoint of your greatest version of yourself, it's just not helpful. Like it's really not. Like it's helpful if you're about to get hit by a car. It's super helpful. Like your reticular activating system and like your ability to avoid imminent danger is amazing. And when you're sitting with yourself and you're trying to decide the right actions to take to become who you want to become, that default mechanism of safety is just, it's something we have to work with. I think what you said before about challenging yourself and doing the uncomfortable thing makes you better at that mechanism. So I think
Yeah.
that formula right there in and of itself is so powerful. The second part, and this is the part I'm really working on and leaning into, and part of the impetus for this podcast is like, I very much have been like a loner for a lot of my life. Like I've just very much like, I didn't really feel like I had help and support with like my issues growing up, whether it was teachers or home life or whatever. And then it was like I got into the workforce, and you talked about like competition. I worked in corporate environments where you were on teams, but everybody was vying to get the front page of the news or the first block
Exactly.
in the thing. And so I never felt like I could trust anybody. And I really
Mhm.
did build this wall with people. And even when I would do the work that I did with yoga and retreats, like I would always be super guarded. Like I would always be super protective of like, oh, I don't know if I can really give or connect with people because this affected me in relationships and a lot of
Yeah.
other areas. But that proof of concept, right? That I call it the 4 minute mile. When Roger Bannister ran that first 4 minute mile back in like the 50s, and then like a dozen people did it the next year. If you can spend more time with people that have done at least elements of what you want to do, it does recondition your nervous system to do two things: believe A, that it's possible for you,
Mhm.
and then B, that like you can ask for help and you can trust. Like I've just in the last year, after 7 years of this journey, started getting help with website and social media and all this stuff. It's like you can't do it all on your
Right.
own. So I think that really is a powerful formula where it's, yes, the inner work, creating a clear vision of like what you want to do and how you want to get there, but then also like, can you get support and help and learn and get inspired from people that have gone up that mountain? Like I think that's just such a beautiful inner and outer exploration of how you can create a constant ecosystem that's reinforcing, this way of being. So I'm curious for you, like right now, like what does it look like? I mean, I think you've done a lot of the obviously the hard inner work and you've put a lot of time and energy, but what does life look like for Carol now? Like, have you built like the right balance, the time freedom, the right income? Like, is it still a work in progress, or like what's the state of the union now for you?
It's still a work in progress. Yeah. So I hit the top rank, then I burn out for several months. And then I had
I
to
do
do a
that
lot.
game a lot. I get really
Yeah.
in love with things. I do too much. Even teaching yoga retreats. Like
Yeah.
I do too. Breath
It,
work. I used to get up at 4 a.m, do it for like 2 hours. I'm like, this is
uh-huh.
crazy. I'm like, I need to back off this a little bit. So
Yeah.
I have that same affliction. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. So it's been, the last 10 years, it's been repairing my marriage because I basically had to ignore my husband to focus on building this business, and then finding new friends because the friends that I had before, things shifted and changed, and we're still friends, but we're not as close. So
Mm.
that's been another gift of the group that we're in, is that I found some really amazing friends that are like-minded and just more into the kinds of things that I am into. But the business ebbs and flows. And so Young Living has been, good, and it's not so good, and then good, and then not so good. And so my income definitely isn't where it was when I, first hit the top rank. So I'm constantly still growing my business, and my focus is still on my business. And I still have new people coming in that want to do the business. So part of my life is still focused on that. Part of my life is also focusing on who am I now that my kids are in college or graduated. You know, it's not quite an empty nest. Our son did come back to live with us for a year so he can save up money. So that's great. But, who am I as a person outside of my husband, outside of my job, outside of my kids? That's a new thing that I've been focusing on. What do I want to do for me? What do I like to do? Not, what do my husband and I like to do? Like, we've been together since we've been 23. I'm 56. So we've been together a really long time.
Mm.
So figuring out who I am and what brings me joy is part of the journey. I relaunched my hypnobirthing practice and my hypnotherapy for infertility practice. So that's been a new, fun, and interesting challenge. Like, I thought, oh yeah, I used to have classes that were full, turn people away. Like, it'll be easy. I'll just jump right back in. And, it's not been like that. So part of that journey is, again, the negative Debbie Downer is like, won't, like, I'm a loser because I can't, my classes aren't filled right away.
I do this all the time. I literally
Right.
like sold out a retreat over New Year's, and I'm like, I'm the man. Everything's amazing. Then I go to Bali. I have a great group of people. I literally have a retreat in 8 days. I had 4 people sign up. One of them had to back out. Typically, we're trying to get 10 to 15 people. So I literally only have 3 people, and I'm just like, well, might be running this retreat for little to no profit, or I might even be losing a little bit of money. And you know
Right.
what? I think it's really important too. And I'm curious if you agree. Like, I think a lot about like just doing the best with whatever is put in front of me. Like, can you
Yeah.
master each moment? Can you be very obsessive about being the best at whatever it is that you do? And some of the people that I love the most in this world, I think they've really cultivated that as a default. And I'm curious now because it's got to be humbling, like going back into something that you were mondo successful with, and
Right.
now eating a little bit of that humble pie. But I mean, how is your approach been to it? Are you still finding that you're able to love just the struggle and the challenge of trying to be good at it? Is that enough to kind of scratch the itch for you?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely, there's still that battle in my head of like, you're a loser, you can't get classes, like that kind of thing. And then
I like your in your head voice. It's a fun, it's a fun shift. It really resonates too. I'm like, yeah, that voice sounds like the one I have too.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and then I just have to remind myself, like, I just got recertified. Like, nobody knows me anymore in the birth industry. And the people that I still know, that they don't really know that I'm back, and so I need to do a better job of networking and reaching out and that kind of thing. But I definitely agree with what you said. Like, I just had a class with a mom who is in North Dakota. She's a second-time mom. She tried to have a natural birth the first time. It didn't work as the way that she thought it was going to. And so for her second birth, she wants to have an unmedicated, calm, beautiful experience. And so I was hoping to have more people, and typically a private session with me is like over $1,000. But I was like, whatever, like, it is what it is. Like, this is what the universe is giving me.
Mm.
It ended up just being so perfect with her that she's in North Dakota, like out in the middle of farmland. Like she wants a natural birth. That's not what people typically do out there. Like here in Encinitas, Southern California, like more people are familiar with unmedicated birth and a lot of them want an unmedicated birth. But if you think
Mm.
about like North Dakota, like that is not a common thing. So like we got a chance to just chit chat and talk. And then she had, you know, an OB appointment and a hospital tour. And I got to really just hone in and give her the tools, the questions to ask. Like, this is what you want to look for at the hospital. This is what you want to ask. And so many things that typically, like if we had had a group, I would have felt like, oh, you know, like maybe we need to talk about this outside of the class or whatever. And we just had all the time in the world to like really dig in and specifically address like her fears and release them. And it just was so, so good. And I just had to keep reminding myself, like, thank you, universe. Like, this was how it was supposed to be, even though, like, up
Mm.
until that class, I was like, you know, this sucks. Like, you know, like, I wish it was like more people because there is a different dynamic when there's a
Yeah.
group versus, you know, just one-on-one. So, but it ended up just being the perfect thing. So I just have to keep reminding myself, like, whatever it is, it's going to be the perfect thing. And like, while just like with your retreat, if it ends up being 3 people, like those 3 people really need what you're going to be offering. And
Absolutely.
right. And they will
Yeah.
leave with just their hearts filled and with a life-changing experience, whether, you know, whether you make a profit or not, like you'll make a profit the next time or whatever, like the money will come when it's ready to come. And that's what I have to keep reminding myself, that it's not about the money and like, you know, it's about what I can offer. And, you know, at that last class, she was just blown away. She was so thankful. And it just made me reminded me of like why I want to teach these classes again. Like these
Mm.
are going to change the mom and the baby's experience, and this baby is going to come into the world in a completely different way because this mom is now empowered.
Yeah, I love that so much. I've had to relearn this lesson like 20 times since I've been an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. You know, it's just it's hard. I mean, it's hard to remember the passion that you started with, and that was for most of us our initial entry into this, right? It's usually out of some kind of personal struggle, personal challenge. For me, it was working a job that I thought was going to be my dream job, and my boss hated me. The environment was so toxic. I really was drowning. Like it was horrible. Like I don't wish it upon anybody. It was the most enigmatic feeling of like, I can't do this job well. I feel like a failure every day. I literally would wake up and just the first words out of my mouth would be like the F word. I just would be like, oh no, like I like
Oh,
have to go to work today. And, you know, and then when I got fired from that job, I stepped back and I was like, whoa, like every time I go to yoga, like it's making an indelible impact on me. And I just wanted to get good at it. And then once I got good at it, I just wanted to share it with other people. And then, you know, the money started to trickle in. And then all of a sudden there I am like teaching yoga to J-Lo in the Hamptons, you know, and it's like, how did I even like get here? You know, and then you have to kind of stray away. You have to kind of forget, I think, and then you have to get a little obsessed about the money side or where you're going to go with it or whatever. But the passion to serve others, I think for most of the people that I really love and respect who've also built, and that was why I really was excited to talk to you, because I see that marriage with people who do this well, but it's been pretty universal that they talk about their authenticity, their ability to serve. And like Michael Singer is one of my favorite authors, and in his book, The Surrender Experiment, he talks about how he just tried to really master the moment that was in front of him, no matter what he was doing. And so, yes, that client of yours, right? This retreat of mine, like, can you be the same person, right? Of authenticity and in service, no matter who shows up to the party. I love the story of Tony Robbins. I mean, his first seminar, he was working as a janitor, right? I think he saved up like a couple $1,000s, rented out the ballroom, printed out all the packets, and literally nobody showed up. And imagine like the the guts to keep going when nobody shows up, right? So if
Right.
you're an entrepreneur and you're listening to this, like if even just one person shows up to your thing, like I know it's hard sometimes.
Huge.
And I remember teaching
Mhm.
early yoga classes where you teach these private classes. I said that in air quotes if you're listening, but it's like, because I wasn't getting paid a private yoga salary, I was
Yeah,
getting paid for
right.
the studio class. And sometimes it was embarrassingly like I would take 2 trains to Brooklyn and I would spend, I would get a bagel and orange juice and a Metro card. And so after the $25 I think I made for the class, I was net like $11 in profit, to go teach one person. And I like would
Uh-huh.
scratch my head because I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I can get amped up for this. Right. But it's like, if you have the opportunity to change and influence one person in a positive way, and you can continue to keep that in the windshield and just focus on doing the best that you possibly can. I know it's hard sometimes, but the money does tend to start to find its way. Like the way Young and Living, like you said, it just dropped in your lap. I think,
Yeah.
that's the perfect example of that. So I would love to know if there's one big piece of advice, if there's one big takeaway from all of this journey that you've been on, even where you are now, what's one thing that you would say to somebody who's maybe new or newish, or maybe even on the entrepreneur journey for a while, but they're struggling right now? Like, what's one big takeaway, one big nugget that you feel like maybe is the most impactful thing that's helped you, or that you could give to somebody that would help them on that journey?
I would say find people to help support you,
Mm,
however that means, like if it is website, whatever. Don't try and do it all yourself, and find a community or build one yourself if you don't have one, because you need the people. Even as an introvert myself, like I need people around me to give me guidance, to help me see outside the box, to see the glimmers that I'm maybe not seeing, and the things that I need to fix that maybe I'm blocked. And having a community, having mentors, having people you can rely on is going to help prevent burnout. And burnout is such a real thing, especially for entrepreneurs. And it's something that you can decrease. It's never not going to be there, especially if you're a solopreneur. It's going to be you doing the work all the time. But you can find help here and there, even if you are on a super tight budget. Like you can find virtual assistants in like the Philippines for like $5 an hour if you really need some website help or tech help or like whatever. Like there's ways that you can find resources if you need them,
mm.
so that you're not having to shoulder all of the weight yourself.
Yeah, I think of it as like buying back your time, right? I
Yeah.
think you like there's a quote from one of my mentors. It's like you do what you have to do, and then you kind of get to do what you want to do. And I think, yeah, early on, we're all initially kind of swimming upstream, having to do it all ourselves. But if you have even a little bit of money coming in, right, you have to start to think about your time as the most precious resource, right? So
Mhm.
anything that you can outsource, right, that you do kind of buy back some of your bandwidth, it's going to free you up to do the thing that you do have the expertise in, right? So, like,
Right.
as I build retreats now, and I just, again, like in the last year, started hiring the tech help, hiring the people, the marketing, all that kind of stuff, because I'm like, my superpower is leading people, teaching people, inspiring people. I probably shouldn't be in the Squarespace backend trying to figure out why a video won't play on my website. Like, this is not a great allocation of resources in terms of energy, right? And then, like, to your
Right.
point, if you get really clear about just like lining up what the things are that you kind of need to do because they're you, like it's you part of the business, but then what are the things that you can outsource, right? It's
Mhm.
really just about building clarity around what those things are and then being able to give it to someone with that clarity so that they can take it and run with it. You might have to manage those people a little bit in the beginning,
Right.
but my goodness, like when you start to buy back that time, it feels so fun and it feels so good. I think a lot of entrepreneurs just don't really have that self permission to like outsource it or take the risk of paying for it. But it's something, yeah, I spent like 6 figures on marketing and stuff, but I didn't really know what I wanted. So I call it like my extra MBA. I just kind of like went through people and went through things like, I don't know what the hell like I'm doing, but like this is like burning up money for me. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, once I kind of sat with like the clarity of like what I needed to do in my business and like what I loved doing and what had to always be me versus what could be outsourced, I got a lot more clarity and a lot more yeah, like really got sharp in terms of picking the right people and, you know,
Mhm.
making sure that it was kind of outsourced. I would love to just open up at the end for is there some ways that people can access you? Is there some things that you're putting out in the world? That it sounds like the hypnobirthing is coming back, so that's a way I'm
Yeah.
sure people can connect with you if people are interested in young and living. Like, what's the best way
Yeah.
for them to approach you, contact you, etc.?
The best way is probably my Instagram, which is a well-lived life, AWELL, and then lived with a D life, or you can just search my name, which I'm sure you'll have in
Yeah, and I'll
the
tag all that in the comments
yeah.
and stuff.
I have
But
a
yeah.
website, which is also my name. So yeah, I'm teaching online hypnobirthing classes now and starting back up with my infertility hypnosis practice. One thing I do want to add is, as an entrepreneur, sometimes, especially if you're an empath, it feels weird and kind of gross to earn money.
Mm,
And one thing I want to encourage people that one of my mentors said is, think of every dollar you earn as a certificate of health of that person. You helped that person get that certificate of wellness or health, or like whatever it is that your focus is. And that helped me get over the ick of like, ooh, I'm making money off my friends or people, and you know, making a business off selling. Yeah, I'm selling, but I'm also really helping people change and improve their lives in
mm.
what all of the things that I do. And so now I have no issue earning money. Like, I'm proud of the money that I earn,
Heck yeah.
instead of like feeling like, oh, I don't want to tell people, or like, I don't want to, ask for this much money for my, services, because, money's such a weird thing. So highly recommend The Secret Life of a, what's that book? Secret of the Millionaire Mindset, or something like that. Secrets of
Mm.
the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. It's a really great book if you have like money ick. Read
Yeah.
that book.
So many, I think, especially wellness entrepreneurs, I bump
Yeah.
up against it all the time. I think,
Mhm.
my last 12 months has been a lot of what you just said. It's really been getting that belief system that it's like not okay to charge what you're worth out of the way.
Yeah.
And I would say that is phenomenal advice. I love that tip from your mentor. You know, my big thing has been more around the energetics of worthiness. And if you are not getting a reciprocating return on investment in terms of like what you're giving to people is not feeling fair to what you're getting back, it sends a really bad message out to the universe.
Yeah.
Like it does really attract a lot of people, relationships where you're not going to be met in the middle, right? So you really need
Mhm.
to establish what that looks like for you. And I would say, again, not to belabor it, but going back to that passion component, right? If you really are passionate about what you're learning and what you're working on, and then giving that to people, sharing that, teaching that to people, if you really are passionate about it, you would not fear, you know, asking for what you think it's worth, right? Like
Right.
you wouldn't. So in the inverse, right? Like I recently did a training in corporate wellness because again, I'm up here thinking, oh, corporations is where the money is, and that's where I can charge
Mhm.
a lot, and blah blah blah. And like I did this whole training, it was $7,000. I did like 3 months, and I got to the end of it. And I just emailed them yesterday. I was like, yeah, I'm like, I'm not going to do this. I'm like, I just like, I don't want to do it. Like, I don't want to go back in the corporate setting. I don't want to be around HR managers. I don't feel impassioned to like teach people
Mm.
what they were trying to tell me would move the needle, would help
Mhm.
people. And instead, I want to do coaching. I want to do one-on-one work with people. I want to talk about spirituality, and I want to talk about meditation and breath work and morning, evening routines and the things that changed my life, right? Not step
Mhm.
counters and all this other stuff that I really hasn't made an impact for me, right? But it's just funny. Again, it's like how we circle around it in our minds to like, how can I make money? It's like I put the profit one first, and then I was like, maybe I'll slide some passion and purpose in at the end. It's like it don't work that way. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I
Mhm.
love that you brought that up because yeah, it's really important, especially if you're a wellness entrepreneur in this, and think about this too, like, if somebody doesn't find you and you are passionate, you do a good job with people. If you don't have the guts to ask them for it, they're going to go ask somebody else, and
Right.
they may get something
Exactly.
that is inferior. Or they may get
Mhm.
something that's just frankly not as good. And I would say lastly too, there's a psychology to charging what you're worth too, right? Like when you undercharge, like think about when you go shop for anything. If something is priced more than something else, the same desk, the same computer, is one's priced more than the other, you inherently start to believe that the one, now it's not always true, but it's like you do start to believe that the one that's higher price, like you start to ask, why is it higher price?
Yeah.
Like, why is it more? And I'm like leading to this now because the spots that are selling on my retreats are actually the higher ticket ones are selling first. And then the lower ticket where there's a lower barrier to entry, those are the people I'm having to spend more time and kind of coax them into it. I'm like, this is such a cool message from the universe because these are people who are like seeing the value, understanding it, and are like a full body, full soul, heck yes, as opposed to the other folks on the lower ticket where they're just like, I don't know, can I get a discount? Blah, blah. And I'm just like, you know, like, no, you know? So it's like, yeah, there is something to that when you start to really honor and value your own time and what you're putting into the world and charging appropriately, it becomes this really fun, but it's scary. Again, it's the uncomfortability of leading into that. You know, I think that challenges us. So I love this conversation so much. I feel like I could go on forever and ever and ever and ever. But yeah, I love that you're stepping back into the hypnobirthing. I love that you're kind of going back to your roots. I love, honestly, not like I love that you're struggling with it because I think it's it's such a good story for people who are early in their journey that like, look, you've had success, you've built great wealth, you've built cool companies, and like something you already proved that you could do is taking a little while to relaunch. So look, friends, if you're listening, we've both done really cool things in the world of entrepreneurship and wellness, and I eat humble pie all the freaking time. So Carol, I again, thank you so much for taking some time for coming on. In the show notes, every way to contact you will be there, your website, all that kind of stuff. And you know, a well-lived life on Instagram. Carol posts great content. She really like thinks a lot about what she's putting out, why she's putting out. It's helpful, it's informative. But yeah, thank you again so much for popping on. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
All right, love. Thanks, friends, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.